Hello? Hi everyone. Today we will continue to look at the latest version of the ZKS 2026 question bank. Next we have question 2. Question 2 is about creating a TLS secret. This question mainly focuses on creating our key. Here, the main point is that the question provides us with an existing, already present, an SSL file in the environment, which is then used to secure external server access. That's basically what this question is about. First of all, the content already provided in the question includes our namespace, which is already set up. Also, the deployment has already been created. So what we ultimately need to do in this question is simply to create a secret and then basically mightily mount it into our deployment. Then just check again that the deployment can function properly, and that's basically it. So this is our second question. In the question, they've already provided us with the certificate file and the key file. Normally, for TLS authentication, there are two files involved. One is the certificate file ending with .crt, and the other is the key file ending with .key. These are the two essential files for a certificate. So in this case, we need to configure these two files into our existing deployment as a secret for our TFs. However, the requirement is that we cannot modify any other content. This mainly means you cannot change the deployment itself or alter any existing resources. We are only supposed to create a new resource to provide it for our development to use. So that's the main point of this question. First of all, for this question, as always, as usual, the first step is to connect to the corresponding node. I always emphasize this for every question because, well, it's not exactly critical, right? It's not fatal, but if you start working without connecting remotely, you might spend a lot of time only to realize later that you were on the wrong remote machine. In that case, all that effort would have been wasted for nothing, because exam time is quite precious. So here, the very first step for everyone is, after finishing each question, exit first, right? Then, when you start the next question, connect remotely first. Once you've connected remotely, you can start creating, well, the content of the secret. Next, let's take a closer look at the solution for this question. First of all, our first step is still to remotely connect to the corresponding environment and then start the operation.
Let's pause for a short announcement. Friends, if you're currently preparing for this ITification exam, or if you've been studying for a while but don't feel your preparation is very efficient, this is something you shouldn't miss. Our team has been focused on its certification dumps for 16 years, doing one thing consistently, organizing the most up-to-date, most exam accurate, and easiest to use dumps to help candidates pass their exams more efficiently. Our dumps closely follow official exam updates. They are stable, highly accurate, and well aligned with real exam questions, allowing you to prepare with more confidence while spending less time. If you'd like to get the dumps for this exam and pass the certification faster, you can contact us directly via WhatsApp or YouTube private messages. We're happy to explain the latest update dates, dump stability, exam policies in different countries, as well as any current purchase discounts. Everything is clear and transparent before you decide. We also place great importance on payment security and privacy protection. The entire purchasing process is simple and secure, with no unnecessary data collection. Your personal information and privacy are fully protected. In addition, we provide 24/7 consultation and after-sales support. Whether you're just getting started or running into issues right before the exam, our support team will patiently and professionally help you analyze and solve problems. You're never preparing alone. Beyond this specific exam, our dumps cover almost all major IT certification tracks. If you plan to pursue other IT certifications in the future, feel free to reach out anytime. We'll give recommendations based on your goals.
All right, now we've already entered our remote environment. Here, you can actually see that I just executed a command, which is our... Do you know the kubectl get pod a command? So what is the main purpose of this command that I just used? Actually, it's... Take a look. Actually, in the current environment, all the other pods are normal, right? They're all in the running state, but there's one pod that's not quite right, isn't there? Right here. This is the pod involved in the question we're dealing with. Because for this question, what is it about? It's actually about applying something to our deployment. Here you can see that this pod hasn't started. And what's the reason for that? It's actually because it's missing something. It's missing a corresponding... So as I was saying, what do we need to do here? We need to create something. Of course, here I actually executed the command to view all the content, right? We can see something like this here. But in reality, if you were checking during an actual exam, everyone can just use what? Just use kubectl along with the namespace at the end. Then check the deployment. Inside, there will be one. Like this. Actually, this is a bit more standard because here we're looking at the pod. We're looking at a specific pod, but here we're checking the status of our deployment. It hasn't started yet. It's not in a normal running state. So next we can start creating our secret. First of all, the question provides us with two files. One is our CRT certificate file, and the other is KidMill software. One ends with .crt and the other ends with .key. Both of these have their paths already specified in the question, so we can just use the paths provided. Next, we can go ahead and, for our current, right, the one that's in the abnormal state deployment, create a new secret for it. First, let's specify our namespace here. Within the sub namespace, we can directly create a secret. When creating the secret here, what do we need to pay attention to? It's the type. We need to use TLS as required by the question. As for the name, it's actually provided in the question as well. In fact, the name of the secret and the namespace are the same, which is this one. Our secret's name, right? Next, creating this secret is pretty straightforward. Just add the paths of the two files at the end, but pay attention to the paths. They must be absolute paths. Yes, they must be absolute paths. Never use relative paths. This is a major mistake when specifying these paths. Normally, when you're doing some simple basic operations, using a relative path is fine. But if you're creating certain resources, right, or specifying some paths, you must use absolute paths. Otherwise, if you use a relative path, it won't be able to find it, right? Because a relative path refers to a location relative to your current directory. But when executing commands, in most cases, it doesn't actually execute in your current directory, so it can't find the path, right? So what do we need to do here? We need to, write out the full path. And the specific path here is first the CRT file, the file whose name ends with CRT that we just mentioned. In our case, it's under the home directory. That is, it's in our user's home directory, in the home directory of the current user. And here, the specific path is called web.rkbs.r. My avatar is covering it here. Let me scroll up. Here it is, webqueues.local.crt. This is our first file, which is our certificate file. The second key file is also just now key equals, and then after that, add the candidate directory under our home, and then add CACRT. So just these two files. With these two files, what do? We create a new secret resource. Once the process is finished and it's successfully created, now we can finally use a specific command to see the details of this brand new secret. Get secret. Right? We can see just now, right? 2 seconds, oh, not 18 seconds ago, the two pieces of data we just created, which are the two files. Next, at this moment, let's check our deployment. Let's check the deployment again. Right now, it's still in the 0 to 1 V ready state. So next, what do? We need to wait about 2 to 3 minutes, and then it will be able to run normally. Once it's running normally, this task is considered complete. This is our second question. Creating our TS secret is also about creating something for an existing resource. Yes, creating it. This resource allows it to run properly. That's the main point of our second question. Here, we just need to wait a little bit, just wait a moment, and it will be fine. About 2 to 3 minutes. And then after you wait for it to start, you can just exit directly. Of course, if you want to save time, you can also just exit now and go straight to the third question. After you finish the third question, you can come back to this. Then go back and check the second question. Actually, here, we sometimes encounter some questions where, because of the restart or running process, it takes some time to load. It's not something that takes effect immediately. So what do we need to do here? If you're worried about wasting time, you can just exit and move on to the next question, right? After you finish the next question, you can come back and check this one, right? That's totally fine too. All right, so let's take a look at the current situation here. Let's wait a moment, about 2 to 3 minutes. Okay, after we've waited a few minutes here, let's check this again. As long as our deployment is in the ready state, then there's no problem. And that concludes our second question. But after the explanation, make sure to log out. Don't forget to log out. So that's the content for our second question. All right, we'll continue to bring you more in the future. This is an explanation of the question bank for the CTS series exams. We provide explanations for a range of questions here, so if you have any needs in the future, feel free to discuss them directly in the comments section. All right, that's all for today. Goodbye, everyone.